Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So as for today's vlog, I'm gonna share to you about the fundamentals of taxation. Nature of taxation, but let's define taxation. So, taxation has defined as the power of sovereign to impose burdens or charges upon persons, property, or property rights for the use and support of government to be able to discharge its functions. Or, taxation is a state power exercised through the country's legislative body. Next is the principles of taxation. So, the 18th century economist and philosopher Adam Smith attempted to systematize the rule that should govern a rational system of taxation. He set down the four general canons. So, first is the subjects of every state ought to contribute towards the support of the government, as nearly as possible, in proportion to their respective abilities. That is, in proportion to the revenue which they respectively enjoy under the protection of the state. Second, the tax which each individual is bound to pay ought to be certain, and not arbitrary, the time of payment, the manner of payment, the quantity to be paid. Ought to be clear and plain to the contributor, and to every other person. So the third is every tax ought to be levied at the time or in the manner in which it is most likely to be convenient for the contributor to pay it. And then lastly, every tax ought to be so contrived as both to take out and keep out of the pockets of the people as little as possible over and above what it brings into the public treasury of the state. So next is the purpose. So the purpose of taxation is to raise revenues from all possible sources, to support government expenditures and services, and to promote the general well-being and protection of its citizens. And also, taxes safeguard newly opened industries to pioneering in new industries and other enterprises. Taxes also shield domestic producers by levying a much higher custom duties on imported goods. Next is canons of taxation. So refers to the administrative aspects of a tax. In other words, the characteristics or qualities which a good tax should possess are described as canons of taxation. And it must be noted that canons refers to the qualities of an isolated tax and not to the tax system as a whole. According to Adam Smith, there are four canons or maxims of taxation and the administrative side of public finance which are still recognized as classic. To Adam Smith, a good tax is one which contains first, canon of equality or equity, second, canon of certainty, third, canon of economy, and the last, canon of convenience. To these other four canons, economists like Bestable have added a few more which are as under: fifth, canon of elasticity, sixth, canon of productivity, seventh, canon of simplicity, eighth, canon of diversity, and the lastly, canon of expediency. Next is fiscal adequacy. So means the sources of revenue must be sufficient to meet government expenditures and other public needs. And it also refers to the ability of taxation law to finance government expenditure. So an example of fiscal adequacy is the increase of tax imposed by the government on its citizens to meet public expenditures. Next is administrative feasibility. So means the tax laws, rules, and regulations must be capable of being administered and complied with. Citizenry must easily understand its application for its compliance. No matter how willing and able a taxpayer in complying the mandates of a tax law, if he could not comprehend, he could not fully comply the same without lapses. Notably, each error in compliance is penalized, and good faith is not always a good defense. Each tax should be clear and plain to the taxpayer, capable of uniform enforcement, convenient as time, place, and manner of payment, and lastly, not unduly burdensome upon of discouraging to business activity. So next is theoretical justice. So the tax burden should be proportionate to the taxpayer's ability to pay. So the ability to pay principle, this principle holds the tax should relate with the people's income or the ability to pay. That is, people with greater income or wealth and can afford to pay more taxes should be taxed at a higher rate than people with less wealth. An example is individual income tax. Basis of taxation, so the theory and basis of taxation. So the basis, taxation is based on the reciprocal duties of protection and support between the government and its people. Government receives taxes from the people, which is used to perform functions of government and other benefits. Next is objects of taxation. So first, individuals who earn a considerable amount of income as a worker or as a businessman in partnerships or corporations, including those who inherited a property or given a gift or donation of a considerable value. Second is tangible and intangible properties, whether personal properties, which is movable properties that can be moved or relocated, or real properties, which is immovable properties. And lastly, transactions, consumptions, interests, imports and exports, and privileges. Next is situs of taxation. So situs is a Latin term for place or location. It refers to the place where taxes are to be paid. So situs of taxation literally means place of taxation. The general rule is that the taxing power cannot go beyond the territorial limits of the taxing authority. So first is income tax. So is a type of tax that governments impose on income generated by businesses and individuals within their jurisdiction. So income tax is used to fund public services, pay government obligations, and provide goods for citizens. So the example of income tax is 15% of your income deducted from your paycheck and paid to the government to maintain the military and social welfare programs. So second is the real property tax. So real property tax is tax on real property imposed by the LGU. So LGU or the local government unit. So this is paid where the property is situated. So an example of real property includes undeveloped land like a forest or a field, and it includes buildings such as houses, condominiums, and office buildings. So real property also includes things associated with the land like subsurface rights. So third is personal property tax. So personal property tax, also known as property tax, are a form of taxation on what is termed personal property. So personal property is defined as any movable property that is not attached to a home or building. So it also taxes on intangible properties are paid in the place where the property is located, similar to the real property tax. So example of tangible personal property includes vehicles, furniture, boats, and collectibles. Fourth is the business and occupation taxes. So this is paid in the place where the business or occupation is located. So business and occupation tax, or a gross receipts tax, means a tax imposed on a measured by the value of products, the gross income of the business, or the gross proceeds of sales, as the case may be, and that is legal liability of the business. Limitations of taxation. So there are two limitations, inherent and constitutional limitation. So inherent limitations, restriction, and the power exist from the very nature of the power of taxation itself. It's also rooted in the nature of taxation itself. These are the limitations that are not affected by changes in the provision of the Constitution. Number 1, the tax revenues must only be used for public purposes. Number 2, there should be proper delegation of legislative power to tax. Number 3, government entities are exempted. Number 4, there are territorial jurisdiction. And lastly, number 5, there is an observance of international law. And the second limitation is constitutional limitations. So it means restriction in the exercise of the power of taxation as expressly provided in the Philippine Constitution. So number 1, observance of due process of the law. So Article 3, Section 14.1 of the Constitution says that no person shall be held to answer for a criminal offense without due process of law. Number 2, equal protection of the law. So no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. Number 3, uniformity and equity rule. The rule of taxation must be uniform and equitable, and likewise progressive. Number 4, non-imprisonment for non-payment of poll tax. No person shall be imprisoned for a debt or non-payment of a poll tax. Number 5, no appropriation for religious purposes. So it means no public money or property shall be appropriated, applied, paid, or employed, directly or indirectly, for the use, benefit, or support of any sect, church, denomination, sectarian, institution, or a system of religion. Next is double taxation. So is a tax principle referring to income tax paid twice in the same source of income. It can occur when income is taxed at both the corporate level and personal level. It also means occurs in international trade or investment when the same income is taxed in two different countries. Direct duplicate means the same income tax twice. Indirect duplicate means taxes that are paid by the same individual or corporation based on two or more different taxing bases. So next is the question of government taxing itself. So means the government may be taxed if it derives profit in the exercise of its proprietary capacity, and not when the revenues were gained from the exercise of governmental responsibility. Next is the government functions in its governmental capacity when it serves the people and delivers basic services to them. Next, the government acts in its proprietary capacity when it functions for profit. Next is avoiding taxation. So, these are the other concepts related to taxation in terms of avoidance or non-payment. First, shifting. So, this is the passing on the tax burden from one person to another. Second, capitalization. This is done by reducing the price of a taxable product or service to lower the tax that will be imposed on its consumption. Third is tax avoidance. So it refers to the availing by the taxpayer of legally allowable means in reducing or minimizing the tax due on certain properties, items, and services. It also means that the tax minimization. So fourth is tax evasion. So it refers to the use by the taxpayer of illegal means in escaping, defeating, or lessening the tax due, or it means tax dodging. And the fifth is tax exemption, the bestowal of immunity by the taxing authority and the taxpayer from the obligation of a tax payment.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.